What's going on, Chris? I hope tonight's not going to be one of those nights. Just at the point of going live, StreamYard loses access. So I'm back in. Let's hope tonight is not one of those nights. What's happening, Chris? What's going on out there, ladies and gentlemen? How's everybody doing? SPF, my man, how are you doing? Andre, what's going on, brother? All is well. How is this extra hour of light treating everybody? From what I understand, it's going to be permanent from here on out. Double D, what's up? For reals. For reals. Man, I do not recognize that name. For reals, if this is your first time, man, thanks for stopping in. Folks, we're going to give them a few more minutes to get into the chat. But great to see you, everybody. Alonzo, what's going on, baby? Good to have you this evening, man. Let's hope this is going to be another good one. Lots of great back and forth. Terry, what's going on? Mad Wood. Great to have everybody in this evening. So they're looking at making this daylight savings permanent. So they're going to slap us with a deficit as opposed to leaving us with the extra hour. All right. So as usual, we're getting short change. But I think I can live with this. Yeah, I think I can live with this. Okay, for reals. That is all right. That sounds familiar. Yeah, that sounds familiar. All right, folks. Man, I want to welcome everybody back to episode number 45 with Mom and Papa Joe. It doesn't seem like it's been that many when we started this last year, but man, time flies, and it's been an awesome ride with you guys hanging out with us. Tomas, what's happening, man? How are you doing? Troy, what is going on? How are you doing? Carnal, 805, my man Jorge. ¿Cómo estás, hermano? ¿Todo está bien? So, like I was saying, man, it's been a great ride so far. We've had some great guests on. We've had some awesome conversations, a lot of great back and forth, and I really, really appreciate that. We really appreciate that. And I'm so looking forward to so many more of those. Tonight, the plan is, man, to let's get a little deeper into the science of the stall. I know lots of you out there have experienced that stall. How frustrating it is. I can't understand why it happens sometimes and not every single time, or why it happens every single time. We're going to dig deeper into this. We've got a lot of folks in the chat, man, with some awesome experience, and hopefully they're going to be able to chime in and help us understand what causes it, what we can do to mitigate it, and even what we can do to avoid it. So real quick, let me just double check, man, make sure I didn't miss anybody. when I don't have guests on, I do a lot better job of staying in tune with the chat. So hopefully I'm able to do that tonight. So real quick, what is the stall? What is the stall? Somebody let me know before we dive deep. And tonight, man, I'm switching things up. I got a little Crown and Coke. Feel a little light on my feet tonight. But right in front of me, I've got a bottle of Cavassier XO and a bottle of regular Cavassier, just in case I decide to switch things up. And the usual Miller Lite. That's my chaser. We appreciate it, Chris. I hardly ever think of that thumbs up button, man. It's not until somebody reminds me. Folks, it doesn't cost you anything, man. Hit that thumbs up button. If you're in the chat and you don't like what we're doing, hit that thumbs up button. Hit that thumbs down button twice, and you'll be all right. So yes, if you're enjoying what we're doing, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Show a little love. I was waiting for an answer from the chat as to what is the stall. What's the definition of the stall? My man Joe, how are you doing? How are you doing? So all right, Joe is getting ahead of us a little bit. All right, Alonzo. All right, I was looking for something along these lines, Alonzo. Thank you very much. So, man, it primarily happens when you're cooking a larger piece of meat. And the stall occurs when that piece of meat, whether it be a pork butt, whether it be a pork shoulder, a brisket, a shoulder clod, any large piece of meat has the ability to stall. And the stall is simply when that piece of meat reaches a particular temperature and it stops rising in temp. So it reaches a temperature where it's not yet fully cooked, but for whatever reason, it stops rising in temp. And this pause in temperature rise can last anywhere from half an hour, man, to 5-6 hours, based on the conditions. And there are a lot of myths. All right, there are a lot of myths as to why that occurs. Anybody ever heard of some stories that we at this point we know aren't true as to why why that piece of meat stops rising in temperature? I will throw one out there. Look, we got Pig and Whiskey Test Kitchen. That's another name that I don't recognize. Joe, we're gonna get to yours in a minute, man. Just hang tight, Joe. Just hang tight. What are some myths? Way back when, man, there's some people that felt that the stall occurred at that point when the collagen, that jelly-like material, when it's fully cooked, that collagen is starting to break down. The collagen and the fats are starting to render, and that collagen is starting to break down. So a lot of people used to feel that that it was at that point that the stall would occur. All right, but you got these high-speed experienced guys, man, have done tests, and they've learned that is not exactly the case. That is not exactly the case. So Joe pretty much summarized the primary cause of the stall, the real cause of the stall, I should say. Smoking Joe says if he's 150 degrees and starts to sweat profusely, it's going to cool him down, which pretty much will stop his temperature from rising. And that makes absolute sense. That makes absolute sense. So there are two primary factors, folks. Yeah, there are two primary factors. Let's see. Sleeper said, "Is that a new award on the right?" Yeah, Sleeper, that's my new live studio is live light. I haven't yet figured out where to place it. I had it lit up, but it kind of gave my face a purple glow. So I haven't figured it out yet how to mitigate that so it's not turned on. I don't want to look like the Incredible Hulk in here. Not a purple glow. I'm more of a blue glow. So I've got to figure that out. Yeah. We appreciate you, Pig and Whiskey. We appreciate you. All right. So I don't want to fall behind. Troy says the stall is when I curse the meat because it stays at that same or even drops in temperature while he's trying to get the food done. Yes, I failed to mention that. Your meat can even retreat in terms of temperature. It can lose a few degrees. That can be very frustrating, man. You know, you plan on serving at a particular time or eating at a particular time, and next thing you know, you're 2-3 hours behind, sometimes even more. What's happening, Rick? How are you doing? 805, man. Yeah, I totally understand and hate that for you, man. Yeah, hate that for you. So, like I was saying, Trumpet, what's going on, man? Panchuco. All you guys, welcome again this evening. So I was saying that the two main factors that causes the stall, affects the stall, are humidity and airflow. Humidity and airflow, man. Those are the two biggest factors that help to create the perfect conditions for your meat to drop in temperature. Let's talk first about airflow. So imagine that you're out cutting the grass on a summer day, and it's humid outside. All right, as you sweat, that sweat just sticks to you. It's not evaporating. And you understand that during evaporation, man, when that sweat is leaving you, it cools down. Picture yourself, you get so tired cutting that grass in that humidity that you decide to come inside and you sit in front of a fan that's blowing air directly onto your face. And immediately you start to feel that cool, sometimes even cold, as that air is moving across your face and head, evaporating the water. It starts to cool you down, and you can actually get cold if you're there long enough, or if that air is blowing hard enough. Well, at a lesser degree, the same thing happens inside your pit. The same thing happens inside your pit. So there's airflow in your pit. That fire takes in oxygen from that intake vent, whatever kind of vent you might have, all right, and moves it across the fire, move it across the fuel, all right, then across the meat into the chamber, and then out the exhaust. So that airflow, that movement is causing the evaporation. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the different the quantity of water in meats. I'm gonna talk brisket primarily. A brisket, for example, is almost 70% water. A brisket is almost 70% water. So there's a whole lot of water that has to come out of that brisket, all right, before we get that finished product. All right, you're looking at almost, give or take, 20% of that 70% has to come out of there. All right, let me get back to this chat. Chris says it's normal for a tri-tip to stall. Chris, I don't think the tri-tip is cooked long enough, or it's that big a piece of meat to experience the stall. And the fact that you're not going to take it to those types of temperatures, because that stall usually start anywhere from 150, 150 degrees to 170 degrees. So unless you're smoking a tri-tip, low and slow, you're probably not going to experience a stall with that piece of meat. Let's see. Just want to stay ahead of this pig and whiskey. Man, it's awesome to have you, man. You compete in Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, and the Texas area. Maybe one day, man, we'll cross paths. That would be a pleasure. That would be a pleasure. All right, let's go on down. Mo, how are you doing this evening? All right, let's see. Trumpet said he's done a brisket style tri-tip and it did stall. Well, that serves you right to destroy a tri-tip like that. So that is well deserved. Triple B, what's happening? Barbecue, bourbon, and blues, man. Good to have you this evening. All right, I think we're up, caught up. All right, so like I was saying, man, the air movement across that piece of meat, as that piece of meat begins to cook and it starts to expel moisture, that moisture gathers on top. Some of it runs off the side, but that entire piece of meat tends to be covered in that liquid that is coming out of that meat. And now, as your pit is taking in oxygen from that vent, from that intake vent, and moving that warm air across that piece of meat, there's just that slight bit of evaporation. And that bit of evaporation is cooling down. And it cools it down enough that it stops rising in temperature and sometimes retreats in terms of temperature. Kirby Q, what's up? So the more airflow, one of the primary reasons, like I said earlier, the more airflow, the faster your pit draws, the faster your pit is pulling air across that piece of meat, the earlier and the longer your stall is going to be. The earlier and the longer your stall is going to be. We all know, if we've been in this game, in this hobby for any length of time, we all know that there's a science to pit building. You know, if you're cooking on an offset firebox, size of your firebox versus the size of your chamber versus the length and circumference of your stack, all those things play a role in your pit drawing air appropriately, accurately. What's the word I'm looking for? I'll come up with it in a minute. But all those things, so firebox size, chamber size, stack size, they all play a role, all right, in your pit drawing air efficiently. That's the word I was looking for. Efficiently. Any one of those things become off, struggle to draw air, or your pit might draw air too fast, which will definitely All right. I lost you guys for a minute, but I am back. Yeah, I am back. I think everybody can see me. Not sure. All right. Awesome. So, what are some things? What are some things you can do to mitigate? All right, to minimize the stall. Let's see if anybody's got any ideas. What are some things you can do to minimize the stall? Troy, I am with you, man. Yeah, I am with you. You know, I love the idea of low smoke in a tri-tip, and then finishing with that hot sear, man, right around 138, 140. But to cook it like a brisket, not into that. Uh, that's what briskets are for. Yeah, that is what briskets are for. It's definitely an awesome cut of meat, man. It chews very well uh, at that 138, 140. You know, I just don't think there's enough fat, collagen in it to justify cooking it like a brisket. That's just my opinion. Trumpet, I never said that was the wrong way. I'm just saying that's not the best way. I mean, it's your piece of meat. You can cook it however. What's up, Darnell? How you doing, buddy? All right, just checking this chat, man. We appreciate the thumbs up, folks. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Double D, the Joe Felton calculator. I am not aware of that. Does that have something to do with the science of pit building? Let me know. But I've never heard of that. The Joe Felton calculator. All right. Spit the knowledge. Share. Share. All right. Let's see. Madwood. I think I saw that. Yes, I think I saw that. Darnell. I had my technicians in here real quick, man, and they got the feedback up. Yeah, she did a great job. So I asked the question earlier, and I see an answer. What's one of the things you can do to mitigate the stall? And 805, my man Jorge says you can raise the temperature. You absolutely can. You absolutely can. Folks, the lower you're cooking, the lower your temperature is as you're cooking, the greater the chances of a stall. The greater the chances of a stall. So if you're experiencing that stall, then you want to raise the temperature to try to break through that stall. So if you're cooking at 225, man, and that piece of meat has been there at 150 or 155 or 160 for 2-3 hours, that 225 is not going to get it done. You've got to go ahead and bump that up, like Jorge said. You've got to go ahead and bump that up. And I'm talking from that 225, man, to 275, 300, maybe even 325, especially if you're behind in terms of finishing time, serving time. You've really got to kick that temperature up. And now I'm going to talk from my experience. I do not put, man, I have not put a thermometer in a piece of meat as that meat is cooking Man, in probably 10 years, I do not put a thermometer in that I can monitor. I just don't. And I have just gotten comfortable cooking that way. So if my meats are stalling as they're cooking, I don't recognize it. I don't realize it because I don't have a thermometer. Jorge said raise the temperature. That is all well and good, especially if you're cooking something like pork. But raising the temperature can come with some issues. You know, it will cause that meat to cook faster. Uh, it might not give that piece of meat the appropriate amount of time for the collagens and the fats to render, which could end up being a tougher piece of meat. So it's one of those things that you've just got to play with and figure out. Let's see. The Starving Pig calls it the Texas Crutch. This is a second means of breaking through the stall. The Texas Crutch, I think we've all seen and heard of it. That's simply aluminum foil. That is simply aluminum foil. And that is what I use at competitions. Competitions are the last place you want to experience a stall. Whether you're cooking a pork butt or a brisket, a competition is the last place you want to experience a stall. And I've had a couple of occasions where I may have experienced a stall, but I don't think it's a stall. I think it was just bad thermometers or something. And I ended up overcooking briskets. But the Texas Crutch, wrapping in foil. And what happens with that foil, folks? You wrap that particular piece of meat, you add a little liquid, and you want to wrap that brisket as tightly. You want that foil hugging that brisket as tightly as possible. All right. And because there won't be any air movement, you've pretty much got 100% humidity in that package, within that foil. 100% humidity, man. There's no air moving across. There's no steam escaping or minimal steam escaping. And all that brisket will then do is to, what's the word? In cooking in water, braise. That brisket is just going to braise in that liquid. That comes with some drawbacks, especially if you're one of those individuals that's into a bark. That braising action will cause your bark to soften. You come out of that foil, you want to make sure before you come out of that foil that that piece of meat is completely cooked. Because coming out of that foil, immediately you open that package, that brisket is going to start cooling. That brisket is going to start cooling. So yes, those are two ways to alleviate, to minimize, to break through the stall. Check in the trumpet says fat side up shortens the stall. If it works for you, trumpet, run with it, baby. Yeah, I have never heard of that, and I don't know how accurate that is, man. But if it works for you, then I would say roll with it. Like I said, man, I just do not experience a stall that I recognize, and chances are it's because I don't have a thermometer in that meat. I'm not worried about temperature. I do a lot of cooking by sight, by feel, so I just don't experience the stall. At competitions, I'm cooking between 290 and 300, so I'm running pretty hot, which is definitely going to minimize the stall. Some other things that I forgot to mention, the liquids in that, or the moisture in that pit, how that can affect the stall. You got people that are spritzing. You got people that are mopping. You got people with water pans in their pit, and all those things, man, are just extra. extra moisture being applied to that chamber. All that moisture. And don't get me wrong, there are times when a spritz or mop is absolutely necessary. All right, but just be careful that you're not overdoing it. Otherwise, it'll be just like uh, uh, outside with that humidity, that water just sitting there, man, not going anywhere. And that, in that case, additional moisture could help. All right, additional moisture could help. So it's one of those things where you just have to find that happy medium, that balance. Let's see. All right, I asked Daddy Dutch about that Felton calculator. All right, so I was right. The Felton calculator is about pit building. It helps with all your opening, sizing, intake, exhaust, and the firebox to cook chamber based on the size of the smoker you're building. All right, there you are, folks. So if you are interested in building your own pit, if you build your own pit, then hopefully you're aware of this Felton calculator. If not, Google it, see where you can get it, your hands on it to make sure that you build the most efficient pit possible. Great info, Double D. Great info. Pig and Whiskey, you and I are in the same boat, man. I have not. I just don't see it stall. Yeah, I know that it exists, but it never affects my cook. Yes, sir. Ditto. Ditto. Yeah, I don't know what Donnell is talking about, and I'm kind of scared to ask. Yeah, yeah. uh, Tom Donnell says an hour per ounce. Hey, my man Tom Fuentes, man, he's the only person that ever had a ribeye stall on him. Yeah, it stalled for about 20 minutes, man. That was ridiculous. He had to wrap it in foil. This was at a cook-off. Troy says he's still pretty new to barbecue, so he uses probes almost all the time. Still trying to learn how to cook. Will worry about cooking the field once he gets comfortable. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, Troy. And don't get me wrong, I am not knocking cooking with thermometers. I mean, you do what works for you. You do what works for you. I just don't use them, and I've gotten to that point where I kind of understand. I know what my pits are going to do. I know for the most part what that piece of meat is going to do. Every once in a while, I fall asleep and let it get out of hand. But 9 times out of 10, I kind of get things right. But there's nothing wrong if you want to put a thermometer and monitor the progress of your meats. In that case, then yes, you will definitely recognize a stall. Michael is asking, is the sweating bad for the briskets in your Cambro? Michael, I'm not going to say it is bad unless you are interested in a drier bark. All right, that brisket is in the Cambro. It is finished cooking. There is going to be some steaming, some sweating, especially if it's wrapped in foil. That will definitely soften your bark. And at times, it can even cause your bark to become a little lighter. You know, you pull it off the pit, that bark is nice and dark, and inside that foil, that steaming action That moisture that builds up on top of that foil and drops back down onto the meat as its steam turns, as that vapor turns into a liquid, kind of saps the color from your bark. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it happens. So the sweating isn't bad unless you're really, really interested in a good dry bark. And for me, that is where I am right now, man. I love that good dry bark. So when I'm resting now, if I'm able to crack and just loosely cover that piece of meat, with some foil to allow steam to be able to escape, then I will do that. If fat side up short in the stall, how come he's tall and stalled? The moral of the story is let it roll and be patient. Absolutely. Give yourself plenty of time and you're cooking large pieces of meat. Don't ever try to time your serving hour exactly. Always build in a couple of 2-3 hours. You will rest a lot more comfortable than trying to be exact. $8.05. All right, another way to beat that stall is to have a consistent temperature. Don't let your temps go up and down, especially with the offset. Don't let your temps go up and down, especially with the offsets. Excellent point, 805. And for those of you who cook on pellet smokers do a great job because of the convection, because of the way air moves, the convection, that they really, really rarely experience the stall. And when it does, it's very short. So it has something, there's a science to the way the air is being convected when cooking on a pellet smoker. So yeah, minimal stalling with pellet smokers. Nobody has mentioned this yet, and let me. All right, nobody's mentioned it yet. Another way to help prevent or minimize the stall, folks, is to make sure that you're not cooking on a pit with a lot of leaks. And when I say leak, I'm talking you've got smoke coming out of this little corner. You've got a hole on the backside. The door isn't sealed properly. Again, all that increases air movement within that chamber. So you want to make sure, sometimes you go out there and you buy these inexpensive pits. They're not sealed properly. Where different pieces come together, there are gaps, and that is air movement. That is air movement being sped up, and that will definitely prolong a stall. So you want to make sure that that if you got to stick aluminum foil or whatever you need to do to plug up those gaps, your pit and your cook is going to be better for it. Tom says select briskets usually tend to stall on me more often than a better quality brisket. Fire maintenance is definitely a huge factor. All right, Tom, man, I have cooked one select. I have cooked one select in years, and that was just an experiment to see what it would come out like with a foil boat. I did that one a couple of months ago, and man, I was very happy with that select, and it did not take any more time than I thought it would. So once again, I did not experience that stall. And I was cooking that. I cooked that right in that 275 range. And I did not experience that stall. I think that select may have taken me 6.5, 7 hours. I can't remember exactly. And that was done on my WSM. 805. Man, great point, 805. Spritzing, mopping, wetting that brisket down too early. And again, folks, remember I spoke about how much water there is in a brisket. Close to 70% of the brisket is water. So there's going to have to be quite a bit of water removed from that brisket, all right, before that brisket is ready to be wrapped, or before that brisket is anywhere near complete. So if you are spraying water on the brisket way early, all that does is slow down the removal process of that water that's already in that brisket. So you're not only gonna extend your stall, you're gonna really add to the slowdown. You're gonna really add to the slowdown. If you're spraying too early, you're wetting that brisket down too early, whether it be a spritz, a mop, some sort of splashing on it, that bark never gets to set. That bark never sets. That bark never get that deep mahogany, that dark color, right? Because it never gets to cook. And that's Jorge. That's the same thing with wrapping too early. Wrapping too early, and it has taken me. It took me some years to really get to understanding at what point a brisket should be ready to wrap. For that enhanced bark in your end product. It took me years. Matter of fact, man, I was one of those that was so sold on 160. When that brisket hits 160, it's time to wrap. And over the years, man, I've slowly evolved. I want my brisket at a minimum 170 before I start thinking about wrapping. If I'm going to wrap 170, and I want it to have that color. All right, so I might not start spritzing a brisket, man, until I see that bark has really started to turn into that deeper mahogany color. Great point, 805. Trumpet, at cook-off, nine cook-offs out of 10, I am cooking brisket and ribs on the Jambo, and my chicken on my little expert knockoff Weber, or my Traeger 22. Yes, but brisket and ribs on the Jambo. I may have done in the last 5 years, I may have done 10 or so cook-offs where I've cooked everything on my Traegers. Yeah, and did pretty well with them. Great point, Sleeper. And man, I have never really thought about it. Great point. Great question. So isn't injecting adding to the problem? A brisket is 70% water. And then what do we do when we inject? We add another. I hadn't even thought of that, man. Great point. So man, I honestly don't know, because I can cook at a cook-off. I can cook a brisket, man, injected in 5-6 hours. And I'm talking about fat render, collagen rendering, jello, absolutely perfect texture. So I don't know that adds to the problem. It definitely does not lengthen it. Now, where my ability to do that comes into play might be the fact that I am trimming that brisket down so much smaller. You know, if I buy an 18-pound brisket for a competition, because I'm not injecting at home for home eating, I'm not injecting at home. So if I buy a 20 or 18-pound brisket for a competition, by the time I am done with my aggressive trim, I am cooking someplace between 7.5 and 9 pounds every cook-off. So I'm cooking a much smaller brisket. So that may play a role in my times, even while injecting and not experiencing that stall. But great point. Let's see if anybody has any additional insight to that one, Sleeper. Like I said, I just hadn't thought of it. Not trumpet. I have a drum, but I use it at home. It's a mini drum, a James Brooks mini drum. Use it at home, love it. But man, anything that I've really got to start picking up and putting on a truck and removing and lifting, I got to save this back of mine for other things. Mama said, trumpet man. What's a good brisket? What size is a good brisket for comps? You know, they're it has to do with each individual cook. You know, do you want extended cook times? Do you want to cook 8-10 hours? Do you want to cook 5 hours? Do you want to cook 7 hours? So that is how you trim. Then again, the temperature you're cooking on plays a role. You got some cooks out there that are doing lower and slower, so their cook times are going to be extended. Like I said, I'm someplace between that 7.5, 9 pounds every single cook-off. And I know that because my brisket sits in a traveling container and it fits end to end, side to side with inch of space on each side. So the only time that brisket changes weight, is based on the thickness. You know, we cannot control thickness, but we can control length and width. So that's the only way that brisket changes weight. So it's all up to that individual cook. If I'm understanding your question correctly. Chris, you love to get a Traeger, just can't afford it. The slow and seared. Hey, that you know, I've never cooked with the slow and seared, man, but the kettle, I am a fan of the kettles. I own 2 of them. One of them is just about burnt out. One is burnt out. The second one, the little vent closure on the bottom is frozen, rusted. So they're well some 12 years old, and they have seen they've been through the ringer. But there's a new Weber in my future. Mama knows that. And I've still got, instead of the slow and sear, I've got the old school Smokinator. Some of you young cats will not know about that Smokinator, but some of you that have been around, that Smokinator is the joint, man. And you've seen it on some of the videos we've done on the Weber kettle. Daniel says, what are your thoughts on starting the fire while the brisket is already on? Man, I've seen people do it. I've heard of people doing it, and it's got to be something that that works for you. I don't see anything wrong with it if it works and the quality of your food isn't affected. By quality, I mean you're not tasting off-putting flavors, based on that early smoke, that incomplete burn, so to speak. If that works for you, that is fine. I know I have gone to something not quite that drastic because our Jambo burns so cleanly. I kind of used to struggle with getting that full smoke flavor like I used to get on my old Gator pit. And early on, I was allowing the pit to reach temperature. And when I say temperature, 200, 290 to 300 before I put meats on. But I will light my fire now. And when that temperature gauge reaches 225, and there's still quite a bit of smoke, the smoke hasn't quite cleared up yet. When my temperature gauge on that Jambo reaches 225, the meats go on. And that has worked for me. I don't get any off-putting flavors. At 225, you've pretty much got a solid, clean burn. It's just quite a bit of smoke as compared to what my Jambo is going to have at 290, at 250, at 275, at 300. So that is what I do. So if your wood is seasoned properly, man, and you've done this once or twice with no off-putting flavors, then I say roll with it. Yeah, roll with it. And if you're a restaurant doing this and people are coming, then obviously it's got to be pretty good. Trumpet, what internal temperature do you normally pull a prime brisket versus a Wagyu? There are times when I'm cooking a brisket and I never bother look at my ThermoPen or my ThermoPro when I'm checking for tenderness, because it's all tenderness. It's all tenderness. I don't care what that thermometer says, man. It's all about how that probe goes in, and that's what works for me. I know there are a lot of people out there says 205 is their magic number. 203 is their magic number. When that brisket probes at that point, it's done as far as they're concerned. But I've been one of those, man, that I have pulled briskets everywhere from 202 to 211, 212. And because of all the fat in these Wagyus, man, some of them will even go higher, 213. I've seen that happen. So no, there isn't a particular temperature that I want to call a brisket finish. No, sir. It's all about that tenderness probe. And that is something, man, that I think each individual has to practice that tenderness probe. Because some briskets, man, for whatever reason, are going to be finished at 202, 203. Another one might take you to 210, 211. So don't, I tell, in my class, in the notes that I provide, I tell them tenderness trumped temperature. And I during COVID, because of the ability to transfer bacteria, we didn't do it. But now that we're coming out of COVID, we're back to where everybody in that class gets to poke that brisket to get an idea what tenderness feels like, as far as I am concerned. And yes, they want to see what temperature that particular brisket was. And I remind them, hey, that 210 is for this brisket. The next brisket might not be 210, might be 205. But this is what tenderness should feel like. So tenderness trumps temperature. 93 Food Shack. Mama, that's a new one. Thank you very much for stopping in, 93. Teflon Don says he lets the brisket go on charcoal for the first 2 hours. All righty. And here's my thought on that Teflon Don. You know, I love the flavor of charcoal, especially when I'm direct grilling. Especially when I'm direct grilling, I love the flavor of charcoal. But in competitions, uh, man, they want to be able to smell that smoke. And as far as what works for me is one of those flavored woods, whether it be hickory, pecan, if you happen to like mesquite, but it's going to be one of those flavored woods. And anytime I put a piece of fresh raw meat on a grill, I want to add a piece of fresh flavored wood. But I do start my fire with charcoal or lump, and I've got a little bucket that might be a 1 gallon or 2 gallon bucket that I fill with charcoal and wood chunks. So, and that's how I start my fire. When that catches, I start adding a stick of mini log about every 35, 45 minutes based on ambient temperature and how fast the pit is burning. But again, Teflon, man, there's nothing wrong with that. Yes, sir. So you understood the dangers of having that drafty pit, that leaky pit. Yeah, old gaskets, the whole 9 yards, pretty seal up and holds temp fantastically. Yes, sir. That's a good thing. Pig and Whiskey says all field. I've had a brisket finished at 195 and I've had it finished at 215. And I've heard of those finishes too, man. I've heard of those finishes uh, beyond 212 uh, as well as under 200. Uh, I have never experienced one that low nor one that high, but I've gotten close. I think I've come close 213 with the Wagyu, a fatty Wagyu. This dude right here, man. Yeah, this dude right here. uh, yes, very good point, Darnell. Once you start probing with something, that's what you should probe with the entire time. I've got a ThermoPro that I use at home, but at competitions I'm using a ThermoPen, and that is what I probe with. That is what I probe with, and that's the only thing I probe with, because each item will have a different feel. Uh, I there was a competition where I saw somebody probing with a meter, and I will tell you that large bore trying to go into a piece of meat will definitely give you some sort of off-putting resistance. All right, so you want to make sure that whatever you're probing with, man, isn't overly large in terms of circumference, but get used to whatever it is. Troy said he had a chuck roast Tuesday that would not probe tender until it got to 212. Was the highest he ever took a piece of meat to intentionally. uh, I'll tell you, this is a couple of years ago, Troy. I was cooking cook off turn and burn in Pleasanton, and I believe I was cooking a prime, or well, turn and burn is such a big cook off. It may have been a Wagyu, but long story short, this is a brisket that just would not probe tender. And I'm talking this brisket, man, was pushing 211, then 212, 213. And it still didn't probe tender, but it was getting to that point where I had to get this thing off the pit to get a little rest because turning was fast approaching. Long story short, I don't know why it didn't probe tender, but I went to slicing it and couldn't even keep it together. It just broke apart. So either my feel was off or that brisket just was a different brisket. It did not come any place to see in the stage. I could barely keep it together. My man Z Darwin, how you doing, buddy? Good to have you this evening, man. Been a little bit. I hope everybody's doing well at the house, Darwin. 93 is from Ohio, huh? Okay, cool. Slow Ohio. Daniel, I'm not a fan of judging. You know, in our entire competition career, man. Yeah, I have judged once. I will tell. Mama says, Darwin, you answer this question. If judging, what are you looking for mostly in that first bite? Yeah, Darwin was a head judge for a number of years. Darwin, what are you looking for in that first bite if you're judging? All right, 93 is from Canton, south of Canton anyway. All right, Hall of Fame. Spent some time in Canton for Hall of Fame. Trumpet, yeah, there's something definitely wrong with that piece of meat, man. Rarely do I overcook, especially at a competition. But on that particular day, I did. And it wasn't because I wasn't paying attention, man. It was just that brisket would not probe tender. And I'm talking, you know, I'm changing positions, I'm changing directions, and it was the same feel across the board. Went to slice, it was powder. Yeah. Still haven't figured that one out. So Darwin says if he's judging, the first thing he wants to look for is flavor. And I think flavor will take you places that some of the other things we look for won't take you. For example, if you've got a tough piece of meat at a competition and it tastes good, it still has a chance to do well. If that piece of meat is tough, but the flavor is there, it still has a chance to do well. So flavor will definitely take you places that some of the other look for things will not. So flavor, then tenderness. Now, if you got a flavorful piece of meat and the texture is on point, you're on your way, baby. You are on your way. Yeah, Trump has said it had to be an old cow. This dude right here. Z, yeah, man. I've been to a couple of cook-offs. You know the deal. You know the deal. And, folks, I'm telling you, man, I'm so proud of myself this evening. I've done a pretty good job of keeping up with the chat. You guys didn't get away from me, and that usually happens when I'm not paying attention to guests. Yeah, when I'm not paying attention to guests. One more point I want to make. You know, you often hear that old saying, if you're cooking, if you're looking, you're not cooking. Frequent opening of the pits, man, is one of those things that will definitely extend your cook time and extend the stall. So don't feel the need to open that pit every 20 minutes for whatever. Just let it ride. You want to get your cooking, whether it be in the backyard or at competitions. You want to get your cooking to the point where you are so confident in what's going on inside that pit that you don't have to check every 10 minutes, every 20 minutes. Right? You might go an hour. You might go an hour. Uh, and I learned that the hard way. At one point in our competition career, I really got the I started doing a spritz, man. I came up with this spritz that really accented the color of my ribs. And without really noticing, without recognizing, without being conscious of it, I somebody pointed out, man, that hey, you're going to that pit about every 20 minutes spritzing those ribs. And it was because I was enjoying looking at them. I was enjoying that color. And I found that all of a sudden now, my ribs were pushing me right up until cook-off time, until turning time. You know, where did that extra 20 minutes go? What happened? And I couldn't figure it out. And somebody pointed out, and the person is in this chat pointing it out, that man, you're opening that pit way too much. And it just never hit me because I love the way those ribs look with that new spritz. And the minute I stopped doing that, my timing came right back. Pig and Whiskey was awesome, man. Hope to see you as a regular. We really appreciate you stopping in. Trumpet, nah, man. Tonight is Crown and Coke. I've got the yak right here, but I'm just hitting Crown and Coke tonight, man. I want to be a little light on my feet this evening. No, Darnell, these are the same ones from the beginning, man. I'm going to be too lazy. I've got plenty of pennants, banners, but I'm not going to be changing them out very often. Way too lazy. Yeah. Man, Pig and Whiskey, that would be awesome, man. We're glad you enjoyed it. And I may look at trying to get into one of those shootouts, man. Good luck. Yeah, good luck. The cow didn't want to go and was haunting your car. What protein do you want to cook that you've never cooked before? Whether it be elephant, camel, or lion. Dude, I'm one of those trumpet, man. I do love cooking things outside the norm, you know, and especially, with YouTube, people aren't always ready or want to see that particular item. But I get off, man. I enjoy reaching into somebody else's culture to try to cook one of their foods. So I've got so many other things that I want to cook right now, man. As a matter of fact, our video next week might be something Indian or something Southeast Asia or something. We'll see. But any particular piece of meat that I've never cooked before, the one thing I want to cook, and it's not anything out of the ordinary, but it's definitely one of the most revered pieces of meat out there. You know, I often see on social media these A5, these Wagyus, these Japanese Wagyus in the Costco, these steaks. And I keep looking, I keep checking my Costco one day, man, and I hope that I run into a couple of those steaks. And I will pay the $100 per pound, and get one or two of them just to say that I've tasted them, because I've never tasted that full bred 100% Japanese Wagyu. So that is something that I would like to cook at some point. I've seen them at my HEB, but they're the really thin ones, and I don't want to mess with those. I want a standard size steak. But in terms of anything out of the ordinary, wild game or so, I don't know that there's anything. Yeah, I don't know anything. I do want to cook a tuna head. I saw Harry Sue do a tuna head on a video, and man, I thought that was pretty interesting. So if I can get my hands on a tuna head, I'd love to cook that. Darnell, when we first started, man, I used to cook 2 briskets, but I found myself second guessing my at the end of events, especially when that brisket you turned and didn't walk. And as we got better, we kind of realized, hey, it's just totally unnecessary, man. You learn how to cook one, uh, chances are you're gonna get what you want out of that brisket, 9 times out of 10. So no, we don't do two. We don't do two, especially today with the price of brisket, man. It doesn't make sense. No, sir. Do not fall into that 2 brisket trap. It's not necessary. Learn to cook that one, man. Get confident in cooking that one, and you're gonna be all right. Yeah, you may need a bison steak. Bison steak, bison brisket. That'll be a good cook. Dog, what's happening, baby? How are you doing, man? Yes, Tom. Matter of fact, I was talking to Staples Meat Market last week or earlier this week, and he's able to get his hands on whole cabrito. But I believe he said there's something like $11.99 a pound, and I didn't know they'd be that expensive. I can get a whole suckling pig for give or take $4 a pound. I didn't know cabrito would be that expensive, but yes, I do want to cook one. I do want to cook one. Dogfather, all is well, baby. I hope you're doing well, man. Thanks for stopping in. Trumpet says he's going to H Mart. H Mart, H Mart. Who? Yeah, I don't know. And he'll look for some. Well, awesome. Let me know. Dogfather, man. I've been reaching out. About trying to do an in-person hookup, man. And then I heard you mention one possibly the first weekend in October. And man, that weekend right now, it looks like I'm going to be in Mexico for a barbecue event in Mexico that first weekend in October. If that remains, I will definitely miss it. But man, if I'm available, I'm there. Pflugerville ain't but a hop, skip, and a jump to come hang out in the in barbecue. What is it? Barbecue Alley? What is it? All right, let's see. TPC, have a good evening, baby. Have a good evening. Oh, oh, those gooey ducks. Oh, you like those gooey ducks, Yeah, man. This is a competition slash festival type event barbecue, and was invited by an awesome dude, man. So I'm looking forward to that. I want to make sure it happens. Take it easy, sleeper. Barbecue Boulevard. There we go. I don't know why I'm saying Barbecue Alley, but bruh, man, if I'm available, mom and I are there. We'll make that happen. It'd be awesome to hang out, man. Yeah, come down there and take some notes. It'll be awesome to hang out. All right, folks. I'm at that hour, man. We've still got. Let me try to get to the bottom of this chat, and we are there. Oh, man, I love my Mexican brothers and sisters. I go there and begin to habla with them. Yeah. All right, Daniel, you have a good evening. Good night, Z. All right, folks. Man, awesome chat. Really, really appreciate the input. Uh, People from all over the country, all over the world. We had a couple of new folks. We appreciate you stopping in. Want you guys to have a great evening, man. Get through tomorrow and enjoy your weekend. Y'all take care. And Mom and I will see you when we see you.